Hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome to my overview of Intravenous 2. So for those on across that I do overviews on this channel, I take a look at the first 2 hours of a game. That's the Steam refund window. Steam says you can make up your mind about whether you want to keep a game or not in the first 2 hours, and I generally agree and would say 20 hours in, you're probably not going to change your mind about how you felt 2 hours in. So it's a short punchy video, broad strokes info, keep it around 10 minutes and then you can make up your own mind. So Intravenous 2 is definitely the sequel to the first game. I know, right? Shock horror. But if you liked or disliked the first game, this is not going to change your mind. Granted, I only played so much of the first one and I very much did not enjoy it and bounced off it. And I would say that is equal parts of it being just not necessarily for me, which is very rare, right? I will play any game just about as long as it's good. Which comes to the other side of it, I think that it's not a very good construction of a game. Having said that, you can check your reviews and all that. Intravenous 1 found its audience and it was well received from that audience, and I wish it nothing but success. So that is great, right? Devs making unusual, original games and people enjoying playing them. That's what we want. And I don't have to be in that crowd, and not every game has to be for me. So for my part, I'll shout it out and say, if you enjoyed that first game, you're probably going to enjoy this one for whatever reason that is. To elaborate on my negatives, and don't read it as me necessarily bashing it yet, because the game does actually have some overt problems, specifically with narrative and story. It's not Hotline Miami. It's probably the first thing worth front loading with. You might think it looks like it. It's got the same perspective, right? There's a lot going on there that would make you think that. And I feel like some people might get a bit hurt going in thinking that that's what they're getting. It is very slow, methodical, think Splinter Cell, that sort of stuff. Very complicated with a lot of the moving parts. Think Tarkov, think mill shooters, that sort of thing. Fiddly bits and pieces, weapon fire rates and inventories and attachments on guns and all that sort of crap. The issue is, as novel as the perspective is, it suffers from what a lot of stealth games can suffer from, which is the trial and error nature of it, but also the limited perspective makes it suffer from arguably what Hotline Miami could suffer from. But it was less overt in Hotline Miami, just on that point. It was not uncommon for you to get shot off screen by dudes that could see you, but you couldn't see them in Hotline Miami. But because the way that game would play in like 15-second spurts, run, die, repeat, that sort of thing, because it's just so run and gun, it almost added to the character, It was frustrating occasionally, but the memery of just copping a bullet from off screen just added to the lols of doing 100 different runs inside of 5 minutes in Hotline Miami. Doesn't really carry over quite so well here because the issue's here, but it's going to stop 15 or 20 minutes progress when you just get zipped by a dude off screen. Granted, it doesn't happen super often, but fuck me, it is infuriating. It makes you want to smash your controller. The issue of trial and error is the same thing when you tie it into things like that sort of perspective. It's difficult to track where enemies are and where your critical path is. The worst stealth games, if you can think of them and examples, are ones where, there'll be a left door and a right door, and if you take the left door, you win. If you take the right door, you fucking die and you just start again, and next time you take the left door. That sort of trial and error behavior in any game design is pretty piss weak. And so yeah, tragically this sort of suffers from that. You're trying to navigate and find a critical path, and while there is a sort of combat that's a bit closer to Hotline Miami, like when you go loud as it were, it is hyper lethal. You're only going to take 1 or 2 shots, and it's clearly not how the developer intends for the game to be played. So, if you're a little bit allergic to stealth games, or I suppose similar to myself, in that you have a heightened sense of the design issues with stealth often pop up, I wouldn't suggest playing this. On difficulty, interestingly, selectable difficulty levels I take great issue with, right? Surely you should have normal, and normal is what the developer intends. I like when games say that. Normal, maybe an easy, maybe a hard. This has, Jesus, what is it? Easy, normal, hard, true, and I think something above that. The default when you start the game is set to hard, which is already mind-boggling. Why is it not set to normal? And the true difficulty, which is higher than hard, so hard plus, says on the text that this is the intended developer difficulty. So why not just call it normal and embrace that your game's fucking hard by design? Anyway, that just infuriates me. That sort of terrible telegraphing. You might think it's a little thing, but I see that sort of stuff and I think, how much more of your game design reflects the fact that you can't even deliver a very basic concept through a UI design. And look, while I'm bashing on it, I'm not necessarily trying to bash it. Again, I feel like it'll be well received by Intravenous fans, but it's not going to bring other people in. Not like me, that's for sure. The story is kind of... cringe might be the correct word. It feels like a Reddit moderator's attempt at dissecting Morals 101. Basically, you're playing a hitman with a heart of gold, right? You have a moral compass, you won't take contracts unless you're killing horrible, dirty people. And yet, when you get the contract in the first instance, you have to get G'd up by your mate. Yeah, give me more info, give me more info. Apparently the dude is debt scamming people for roof repairs and he's done it a couple of times. I guess that's enough to fucking kill someone. So it's a bit of a flimsy stretch. And it is one of those things, think about it. If you need to tell everybody that you're morally superior, which is this game, that's all this character does. Hello, my name's John, and I'm morally superior. Okay, nice to meet you, mate. Why are you saying that? It goes out of its way to really hammer home that this dude is some sort of moral paragon in his own mind. And it just comes off as, written by a teenager. And then as we go along, the twist, on your second job, you chicken out. Maybe you've been given dud info. Maybe the dude you're about to kill's not actually a bad guy, at least through your weird moral roof tiling bloody concept. And then on the back of that, it creates a blackmail plot. So some third party kidnaps your dad and says, you have to do jobs for us, and apparently this is a known thing. And that's the intrigue. That's the thread for the game. Who is this organization that, as I understand it, specifically only blackmails and forces people to do jobs when they fuck up doing a hitman job as part of the sort of mercenary organization, which opens up so many questions. If you already backed out of a job or stuffed a job, surely you get excommunicated or killed or something like that. That's what most stories would do. And why would you want to blackmail someone that's fucking sloppy at doing their job? Again, too many questions that come about from terrible writing. It feels like I've gone particularly hard on this game. I haven't, I gave it my 2 hours. I was curious what was there. You can't deny that the art and everything is really well polished and well done. I just find myself thinking that, there's a lot of talent. There's some interesting stuff here. Does this really need to exist? My final thought would be, I do wonder how many people want this to be good as opposed to thinking that it's good. But at the same time, there's no malice in my heart by doing this. The dev's clearly passionate and talented and they enjoy what they are doing, and I hope they find success with this next installment. But if you're still Fence City and you're not sure and you're not an Intravenous fan already, maybe pick the first one up on a sale or something to find out, because this is just that again. Anyway, team, might just leave it there for the time being and I'll catch you guys on the next one.